All right, so the next project is we're going to take a landscape drawing that was drawn by Vincent van Gogh, and then we're going to draw it, and then we're going to draw it again in pen and practice different types of textures with the drawing. But the first step is you have to practice different types of pen textures in your sketchbook. And so there will be this image that'll be supplied in the project folder. And what I did is I went ahead and drew out in pencil all the squares that are on that sheet, and then I went ahead and labeled all of them. And then I've already done a couple up here, and so now I'm going to do some more for you guys to see. And I'll probably stop and pause and come back, because you don't want to watch me draw every single square. And so when this is done, it's done with a black pen, okay? So I have a lot of different black pens that I'm going to show you and use throughout this. You just have to use one, but I'm going to show you like different ones. So I just have regular black pens, black ink pens that you can use, okay? And then I also have a couple of Sharpies also. So if you have those, you can use those. You can kind of pick what you prefer to use. So see, this Sharpie has two ends on it. It has the like thicker end. I wouldn't use this because the line that it creates will be a little bit thicker and wider than what you probably want right now. So I probably wouldn't use anything that thick. But if you have the other end, like the fine point or the fine tip, that's the end that I would use. And then there's this one. Again, that's a fine point, fine tip Sharpie marker. So I would use those ends. And then these are, of course, pretty fine points. So I'm going to kind of use all of them just so that you can see the difference of them. I'm going to like bring this up and out a little bit. And hopefully you can kind of still see. So when you do this, have this image that I give to you pulled up on your laptop, your phone, whatever you have, or you can print it out if you want. It's up to you. And you're basically going to be going through and copying all these different textures and practicing. So like this one right here is Crosshatch. So I'm simply going to cross my lines, and I'm trying to do what it kind of looks like in this square. And cross-hatching is when I change directions. So I went vertical, and then I went horizontal. It's a little bit darker on this left side, so I'm just going to add a little bit more. So the more lines I create, the darker it gets. Okay, the less lines, the lighter it is. So over here, I have broken crosshatch. So let's just try it with a different pen. So I'm just going to be changing pens. Again, if you have one pen, just use one pen. I'm just showing you different pens just to give you a variety of what can happen. So this is broken crosshatch. So see how there's like all these little different patches of texture. And we're practicing all of these because then there's going to be several drawings that Van Gogh did. He did sketches of all these different landscapes before he would paint them. He was like studying the landscapes. A lot of artists do that. And so why we're getting all these different textures is because all these landscapes that we're going to do, or in them, there's going to be all these different types of lines and values in the landscape. So this one is broken line, so I'm just going to use the Sharpie marker for this one. Maybe my lines are kind of close sometimes, maybe they're kind of further apart. Try that out. So I'm going to get them closer. When I get it closer, then my value changes to make it darker. Maybe then here I'll spread it out a little bit, so then it's a little bit lighter. And maybe I'll come back in and sprinkle some in, but maybe I don't have to. It's really up to you. The next one is a rough vertical lines. So I'm going to kind of break them up a little bit, kind of like this is like hair or something, or like tree bark, really. I made mine a little bit more rougher than they are in there, but that's okay. That's that one. This is another crosshatch one. So this one, though, it has horizontal, vertical, and then it goes to diagonal. So I'm going to do my vertical. See how my lines go all the way up and down? I'm not breaking in the middle. And then they're going to go all the way across. And then it looks like they go diagonal both ways. So then I'm going to do that. See what kind of fun dark value this gets for this type of texture. And now I'm going to go the opposite way. So when I put all these in all these different directions, it makes it a lot darker than like this one over here. And then this one right here, that's just horizontal lines. And then we have dots. I'm not going to take forever to fill all this up because I think we understand what dots are. So it's easier to create dots with this Sharpie pen. And it'll be easy to create them with pen. You just may have to actually press and like draw a little bit more. Like with the Sharpie, it just kind of like bleeds out. So depending on what you have, sometimes you have to put in a little extra work. But see how I'm switching for all these different pens and I'm getting the same exact look. So that's dots. I'm not gonna keep doing dots. Diagonal lines. So see how they go all the way from side to side. I'm not breaking in the middle. Diagonal lines. And then this, it kind of changes from dark to medium to light. So how it got really dark was by doing a lot of lines together. So I may like go through and just do one layer, and then I'm going to come back. And I'm not sitting here coloring it in. I'm not doing this. Okay. Yes, I'm getting it dark, but I'm not doing that. It's about creating this texture with the lines. Okay, so see how I'm just going over and over and over to get it nice and dark. Okay, so maybe I'll break that for a second. So a medium value, again, maybe I'll go over it just a few times so that it's more of a medium value. Medium. And if it starts to look like the previous, well, let me come back to the previous one and get that a little bit darker. See that? And then this last one will be a little bit lighter. So maybe I just go over it a couple of times and then just leave alone after that. I need more here. Okay, so I have darker, medium, light. What's this one? Broken lines. Let me change pens just because. So it's kind of like these dashed lines, and I kind of gave it a little bit of a curve. So they're kind of like dots, but a little bit longer. They're like dashes. Wood effect, or to make it try to look like wood. So how you do that is getting lines close together, sometimes far apart. kind of following the curve of what you did before, kind of. There's wood. Circles, scribbles. That's going to be fun. Just scribbly circles. That's my favorite. It's like, ooh, this will happen in like a lot of bushes and trees. Just scribbly circles. Don't be like crazy and go all over the place. Try to still keep it controlled. These circly scribbles. Those are fun. Alternating lines. This next one. For some reason, I went down there at the bottom. Shading. So yeah, it says shading. It's darker, kind of gets a little bit lighter. That's kind of like what we did in some of those other squares. Is I'm going to try and going horizontally, and then but I'm coming back to make it nice and dark and lighten up on my line usage up here, so it's not as dark as it is down here at the bottom. I'm intentionally going back over that bottom area to get that a little bit darker. Varying width. I don't know. This one, it just seems like, I have thin lines, but then I need to make them gradually a little bit thicker, and I'm doing that by making lines really, really close together. I'm not sitting there again and coloring it in. I'm like using my lines and how close they get to one another to do the work. Is it going to be filled in all the way sometimes? I don't think so, and that's okay. So I'm making it wider and darker by making these lines go close together. Patchwork. Well, that's kind of like cross-hatching, but it looks like it's a pretty a little bit more exact with how that is. Closed spots or closed spots. So again, those are kind of like dots, I guess. Maybe they're a little bit bigger. And maybe I need to like start closing them in. I'm not filling them in as much as it is on the picture. Maybe I'll switch pens just to show you. So I'm still wanting to kind of see that texture in that line. I'm not sitting here and like filling it in perfectly. I know it kind of looks like that on the picture, but I don't know. I kind of like to see a little bit of texture. So I'm filling them in. Okay, that's that. I'm gonna keep going with that. A dandelion effect. That's fun. So you kind of have this center, and it's like radiating out. Again, to show this. Probably going to have that in something like this in his landscapes because he deals with a lot of plants and trees and bushes and grasses, brickwork, housework, texture. And so it's radiating out. Kind of overlaps a little bit. Squiggles. Those are always fun. Squiggles. Squiggles. So I just have lines with squiggles. Those are fun. Okay. Brickwork. So brickwork, you have your vertical lines, or actually sometimes, you're going to have horizontal lines. And the thing of how to make it look like bricks is then you have your vertical there, and then every other, you kind of see how it goes inside what was previously up above. So then it looks like bricks. The same here. You have these, and then when you go to the next one, they're like in the middle of each. Probably going to have bricks happening in some of these landscapes. And then I have really pretty loose waves. Kind of follow each other, they kind of don't. Closer they are together, the more darker they become. All right, and then you have loopy lines, which we kind of did that with the squiggles, so on, and then zigzag, scribbled zigzag. Okay, like a lightning bolt or something. All right, so you want to practice all of these in your sketchbook with a black pen, and then you will take a picture of this and submit it where it needs to be submitted in the Van Gogh folder. All right.